So the Kansas City Chiefs win Super Bowl 54 by a score of 31-20. By looking at the final score, you would probably think it wasn't really a good game, but honestly, it really was because it was 24-20. Niners had the ball with a little over 2 minutes left to go down the field and score a touchdown. Obviously, that was not the case. They turned over on downs on fourth down. There was I don't know if it was a sack or incomplete pass, whatever it was. Garoppolo got wrapped up, tried to throw that two-handed pass, and I think they called it incomplete. So the Chiefs get their first Super Bowl win in 50 years. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Andy Reid. Obviously, this is his first first Super Bowl as a head coach, and that's nice to see. I mean, he lost one obviously like 15 years ago, so it's nice to see him get back there and finish the job this time. But another guy I feel bad for is the other coach, Kyle Shanahan, because some might forget that he was part of the 28-3 debacle for the Atlanta Falcons. So he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons that year, and you're up 28-3. You're the guy calling the plays, and to blow a lead like that, I mean, part of it has to go on the offense as well. Obviously, the defense wasn't too great in that game, but the offense really stalled it for the Falcons in the fourth quarter as well. So in this game, they were up 20-10, the Niners, with, I think, 2 minutes left in the third quarter. You're thinking, like, all right, the Niners are in a good spot here, and all they have to do is coast, and they win themselves a Super Bowl. But, of course, the Chiefs make a comeback here, and Patrick Mahomes has a great fourth quarter. Damian Williams as well has a great fourth quarter. So Sammy Watkins had a big catch in there. So, I mean, yeah, there were just a lot of things that went wrong for the Niners in the fourth quarter, and you can kind of see the collapse coming. I mean, like once the Chiefs offense got going, it was kind of like, yeah, you can kind of feel this game is over. So for the Chiefs, their running back, Damian Williams, a guy who I think was playing for Miami just a couple years ago, so it's funny that he's back in his home stadium basically winning a Super Bowl, so I feel happy for him. And he had 17 carries, 104 yards, a touchdown. Obviously the touchdown at the end was the big one for him, 29 receiving yards as well. He had a good game at the running back position, and then you had Patrick Mahomes, MVP of this Super Bowl. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I mean, part of it is like, they wouldn't be here without Mahomes, but was Mahomes the real reason the Chiefs won this game? I mean, you can argue yes, but at the same time, I feel maybe a guy like Tyreek Hill or Damian Williams might have been more deserving, but I'm not going to complain about that too much because probably they wouldn't be there without Mahomes anyway. So you have Mahomes, 29 rush yards, did have the 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns as well, and really Mahomes was like playing this game like it was the last game of his life. I mean, that play in the, I think late first quarter, maybe it was definitely the first half where he tried to run in for a touchdown and just got blasted. He lost the ball. Luckily for him, it went out of bounds. It was a 4th and 1 after that, but they converted anyway. But, that type of play, I mean, when you're running and just putting your shoulder into a defender like that, you're really putting your possibly career on the line for just this one game. So, of course, you love seeing that. The guy was going all out this game. Obviously, you would expect that in a Super Bowl, but the guy really proved it. So the Niners offense, I mean, coming out the gate, they were pretty good. They had those reverse plays, the Deebo Samuel. They kind of got the run game going. They got George Kittle involved somewhat early, but for some reason, as the game went on, the Niners offense got worse and worse. And I mean, coming out of the second half, the Niners offense did pretty well. They came down, got a field goal. Then they had a touchdown drive right after that in the third quarter. But after that touchdown drive in the third quarter, I don't even know how many yards the Niners had after that. It seemed like their offense just completely stalled. And there were some things I want to talk about, like the drive for the Niners at the end of the second quarter. So first off, Kyle Shanahan, I don't know what he was doing with the time management right there. I think there was 1:30 left on the clock, had all 3 timeouts left, doesn't even call a timeout, and could have saved himself a lot of time there. So the Niners get the ball back, 50 seconds left or so, and they run the ball the first 2 plays, and then it's like a 3rd and 5. They run a shotgun play, and then I think the running back, like Jeff Wilson or something, just runs like an out and in route basically. Has a big catch over the middle to get down to like the 50-yard line or so. Then they throw that long pass to George Kittle, which apparently was offensive pass interference, and that's where I had a problem because this was a tie game at that point. It was 10-10. And they called George Kittle for that offensive pass interference. I do not agree with that call whatsoever. I think that was a very soft call. I don't think that push off, I should say, was really the difference of him catching that ball or not. So I felt bad for the Niners on that call. I feel like they definitely got hosed on that call because that cost them 3 points basically. I mean, I think Robbie Gould is good enough of a kicker to make, what would have been like a 30-something yard field goal. So I feel bad for the Niners in that regard. I feel like that was should have been a no call, honestly. I don't really think the separation from his hands or his arm basically was the reason he made that catch. It was a great throw by Garoppolo, probably his best one of the night, honestly. And then, it gets negated for just, I think, a pretty bad call. So, you can't make excuses for the refs and whatnot, but I think 3 points right there were taken off the board for the Niners. So there's a few more things I want to touch on. I mean, there was that play with Sammy Watkins against Richard Sherman with I think it was like towards the end of the fourth quarter, honestly, probably like 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, 2nd and 7 play, and Sammy Watkins beats Richard Sherman pretty badly down the sideline. It was like a 30-yard gain off of that play, and it set the Chiefs up in the red zone with a prime position to take the lead, obviously, and Damian Williams had that very, very close touchdown. I mean, that was like just simultaneous, like, his foot stepping out of bounds and the ball crossing the pylon. It was very, very close, and, at the live look, it looked like he didn't really get in at first, but then once they showed the replay, it was really like inconclusive, and I think one camera angle showed that he actually was in, so I have nothing to complain about there. They probably would have got in the next play anyway, so I mean, it's whatever. So there was that play, and then I think, what else was there? There was the Travis Kelce pass interference call, which I think set them up for the touchdown to Travis Kelce, actually, on like the 1-yard touchdown pass to him. So I wasn't a big fan of that call, honestly. I mean, the NFL, they call it all the time. It's part of the rule book. But personally, I mean, if I was like making the rules, I'm not a big fan of that, because you're basically penalizing the defense for the quarterback underthrowing the ball. So that ball basically was at Travis Kelce's like knee level, and if that ball was thrown out more in front of him, it would have been an easy over-the-shoulder type of catch for a touchdown. But here we are blaming the safety or cornerback for the 49ers just because Patrick Mahomes underthrew a ball. So that really made no sense to me. It set them up on the 1-yard line. I know it's technically how it's supposed to be called, so I'm not blaming the refs for that, but as a fan, I personally hate when they call that. Like, you're guarding these guys in the NFL. It's tough enough. You can't really make any contact with them in the secondary. You're supposed to, like, play the ball and the person at the same time. I feel like it's kind of ridiculous. Like, if the throw was good enough, it would have been converted. I feel like you're penalizing the secondary just because the quarterback's not making a good enough throw. So maybe you disagree with that, maybe you don't, but personally I'm not a fan of that. And let's see, I mean, there really wasn't much else to talk about. Garoppolo really did not convert on the big plays, had some balls batted down at the line. He had some nice throws in this game. I mean, some to George Kittle, he had some to Emmanuel Sanders, Deebo Samuel got involved at some points, and you can't really blame anybody on the Niners for this loss. And then Kyle Shanahan had a pretty rough game time management-wise in the end of the second quarter because, honestly, taking the lead at halftime would have been nice, and then you would have made it a 23-10 lead instead of 20-10. And, of course, having the extra 3 points would have been great. So, I mean, part of it's the ref's fault, part of it's him with the bad time management and whatnot. So, I got to blame the refs and Kyle Shanahan for that one, honestly. So, let's see what else we have here. I think Nick Bosa, he was great this game. He was dominating whoever the left tackle was. I think it's Eric Fisher for the Chiefs. He was dominating the whole game. He was getting to Patrick Mahomes consistently. I think Mahomes might have been sacked like 4 times or so. I believe DeForest Buckner got a sack in there. So, Nick Bosa, the kid has a great future ahead of him. It's a shame that he obviously could not win his first Super Bowl, so I'm sure that sucks. But, I do feel bad for some guys on the Niners. They had a great year, honestly. It just felt like it was the Niners' year. You know what I mean? Like some things with the Chiefs were going wrong. The Chiefs had some injuries. You think about Mahomes' injury on Thursday Night Football in like week 4, week 5, whatever it was. So they had that going against them. But for the Niners, it seemed like everything was going perfect. The Niners were winning every game that they were supposed to, and they were winning some big games as well. Like the Seahawks won, the Packers won, they blew them out. The Saints game as well in New Orleans was a big one for them. So the Niners won basically every big task that was against them. And honestly, they probably should have won this game as well. But between the offense stalling and, the time management by Shanahan, it just was not meant to be. So I don't know what it is with Kyle Shanahan. I think he's an awesome coach. I think he's a top 3 coach in the league for sure. But for some reason, when he gets to the Super Bowl, something seems to go wrong. So I think the only thing that can solve that is experience. I think if he gets back there, I would find it hard to believe he would lose. And honestly, if he had a better quarterback, I think this would have been a better outcome for him. I like Jimmy Garoppolo a lot more than most people, but I think he could have used a different quarterback in this game. If you gave Patrick Mahomes to Kyle Shanahan, this would have been a much different story. So Andy Reid's definitely blessed to have a quarterback like that. I feel like if the roles were reversed, and obviously, if the quarterbacks were reversed, I should say, then obviously I think Mahomes and the Niners would have won, but that's not the way it is. So it's kind of a stupid way of putting it, but I think it's true. I think the quarterback matchup was, very key here. So I did think the Niners could get by because I thought their defense would be a lot better than it was, but, it wasn't really the case. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I think Terrell Suggs got another Super Bowl, so this is probably his last year anyway, so congrats to him. I think he hopped on the Chiefs roster like a month ago or something like that, so good for him. And I did pick the Niners to win the Super Bowl in like a video I made probably 4 or 5 days ago. I really did think the Niners were going to win this game, but at the end of the day, My preseason Super Bowl pick was correct, so I guess congrats to me. And also, my number one free agent signing this offseason, or last offseason, I should say, was Tyrann Mathieu. So I got some stuff right. Obviously, my last pick of the Niners was incorrect, but, it is what it is. So I did bet on the Niners. Definitely lost some money in this game, which obviously is not fun, but hopefully I'll make it back in the future. But I did have the Niners winning this game. I did pick them on the money line. I think the Chiefs were favored by 1.5 points, and now I see why. So if you pick the Chiefs and you bet on them, congrats to you. I thought I had it locked up at one point, but probably should have cashed out there, so that's on me. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully I didn't miss any key points. I think I got everything basically. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you next time.